Welcome to Magnet Marketers, our weekly live show where we break down the head, heart, and hand approach to building sustainable growth in your business. During each episode, we share actual client marketing best practice examples, strategies, and tactics that will help you generate real results. Our belief? A magnet always works better than being a bullhorn to attract, retain, and build your brand. Ready to dive into this week's Relationship Marketing Training Tuesday? Well, let's get started. Here's your host, Mike Gingrich and Jessika Phillips. Yay. Hello, and happy Training Tuesday and Turkey Week, mind you. We are magnet marketers, where our goal is always to help you become a magnet with your marketing versus being a bullhorn. And today we are rounding out the year strong with helpful tips and tactics to make sure that you end the year on a good note and are prepared for next year. But before we dive into this week's guest and our topic, which is all about repurposing content and so you can make the most of it, I want to know from you, how are you celebrating Thanksgiving? Are you hosting? Are you going somewhere? Are you traveling? I want to know all the things, where you're watching in from. And also, as a special bonus, what is your favorite side dish? Yeah, I said side dish because I'm planning my meal prep right now. I'm hosting this year and I love Thanksgiving, just bringing everybody around the table and sharing some good food and some good memories. But today we are diving in on Magnet Marketers on how to repurpose content effectively. We have the perfect guest with us to do so. But if we've not met before, hello, my name is Jessika Phillips with Now Marketing Group in the Relationship Marketing System. My personal mission is to help you love more, give more, and be more through the art of authentic relating. And my special guest this week, it's Jeff Sieh. And Jeff is an international speaker and visual marketing consultant. He hosts the Social Media News Live show, which you guys have to check out, full of great tips and advice. We'll definitely make sure to include the links in the recap as well as in the chat here in a moment. And he hosts a podcast and is also the head beard, which you'll understand here in a moment when I bring him on, at the Manly Pinterest Tips. I've been following Jeff for years. He is an expert with strategy and all things social. And he's worked with and produced a wide range of content for various companies, including the guy, Kawasaki, Kim Garst, beautiful friend that actually sent me this mug after she was on the show, and Social Media Examiner, as well as Tailwind. If you guys not met Jeff before, you are going to love him and his beard. So I'm going to bring him up now. How's it going, Jeff?
It's great. I'm so happy to be here. I was thinking about there's so many side dishes I like, but in our family, and this sounds so weird, but it wouldn't be Thanksgiving without the cranberry that comes out of the can, and it's just like a big log of Jello, and it still has the rings in it, and you just slice it up. We've had that. My grandma did it, and we just have it every year since then. So that's kind of my favorite.
We've had that too. I didn't even realize there was another way,
right.
For many, many years. I mean, I think there's so much that goes into preparation for Thanksgiving, in general, right? I'm hosting. I've just now, the torch has been passed to me the past couple of years, and I'm learning to appreciate it more and more and more, all the prep that goes in and all of just the thought and care that goes into to making those dishes. So if you're not taking it from a can and you're actually preparing the cranberry, sauce that goes along with it and all the other things, this year we're doing a brine with the turkey, which is 3-day prep, right? And I know we were talking before we got started here, and I was like, you know what? This is kind of an analogy to our topic for today of how to repurpose content. It really is kind of like when you're prepping for Thanksgiving and you're putting all those, family recipes into play and your secret sauce, if you will, and you're making all this amazing Thanksgiving dinner for everybody to enjoy. It would be really sad if there wasn't all the leftovers that you could, continue, experiencing with that meal that you prepped. And really you can get a lot out of it. That's why I think this week my kids have had charcuterie board yesterday. Today is something pretty basic because I'm saving my energy for this really amazing feast that we're going to have, but we're going to then have enough leftovers to really eat well the rest of the week and beyond. And that does tie into some things when we're thinking about content, where so many brands put so much into creating really amazing pieces of content that people crave, and want more of. But they could put even more into repurposing that and into making its longevity live on. And I know you shared this at Social Media Week, Lima, and I was just a super fan of your stories and just your wisdom on how to do this. So I'm excited for you to share today how
Yeah.
repurposing works and how it can be done effectively.
Yeah, I'm so excited because it's one of my favorite topics because, I've been around for a long time, and Jessica, I followed you for a long time as well. But I think as content creators and as marketers and, brand ambassadors or whatever you are, we're always going to the next thing way too fast. We're always like, okay, got this blog post done. Okay, I got to go and do this next thing. And we don't milk all of the juice or squeeze all the juice out of the content that we create. And I mean, let me know in the comments, but creating content is hard. Can I get an amen? Because it is. Good content is hard to do. And so I have really become like an evangelist to really like, okay, how can we squeeze every last drop of out of the content that we create? And hopefully if you follow me and my posts and stuff, that you'll see that I try to do that a lot with my shows and my podcast. Any piece of content that I make, I am going to repurpose that until it cannot rise no more, because I'm like, let's just keep going, and squeeze that out of there. So, kind of my background, I've been doing this. So There's a funny thing on our social media news live show. Whenever I talk, I somehow bring up Google Plus because that was my thing back in the day. That's got me connected to all these people.
Mhm.
Um, but I started way back when it was the Google Hangouts and it was like the Wild
Mhm.
West of video. I started doing video and then repurposing it as a podcast right from the get go. So I've always really thought like, and I part of it probably comes to laziness, that like I just don't want to do any more work. But taking a live video show and then making a podcast and then taking that, making it clips and all sorts of things. And so it just kind of, I think naturally I've kind of went in that direction. And I love live video. I love seeing the comments and interacting with people. Like Chris Dock had that
Yeah.
comment about pigs in a blanket. I'm like, oh, I've got a recipe for man candy where we wrap it and bake it in brown sugar. And so, being able to look
Yep.
and see those people and comment with them with live video and then repurpose that later, I just think it's the best of both worlds.
But you just hit the nail on the head, and I love this comment as well. Like repurposing, if we're going to keep with the same analogy, which we just should because all
Mm-hmm.
these food comments have me really excited as well. It's not doing the same thing again and again to where the point where if you've ever eaten something so much
Mm-hmm.
to where it's in the same way
Right.
that you get sick of it. But
Mm-hmm.
repurposing is a little bit different. Like you were just saying, like you're taking something that someone said and then you're tying it into what it reminds you of and adding value to it, but also extending the life of what's there. And that's just it with creating content. So I'd love to get into like your tips with this,
Sure.
because repurposing isn't just like I've seen where people, create a blog and then they just share the same blog title and link
Right.
again and again and again. What I just heard you say and what you were doing, even with like Google Plus days, is you were taking that piece of content that was formed in one way and you're creating it into something new. Like again, with
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving, sometimes you have the leftover, maybe it's
Right.
ham and you're
Right.
creating soup out of it because that can be enjoyable. You're creating something else for another way of experiencing something, but it
Mm-hmm.
is maximizing it in a way that still makes it delicious and filling and something that people are going to enjoy in another way. So
Right.
hopefully I haven't played to death the
No,
food analogy. There
we're
may be
gonna
more. I don't
beat that
know.
to
We're
death
going to
because I
go with
love
it.
that. So it's really funny because I went to my mom's side of the family. We'd go when I was a kid, and we'd have ham for like Christmas, but then we'd have ham for the entire time we're there. And it wasn't like, oh, let's make deviled ham. Let's do this. It was like, nope, sliced ham. As we heat it up, sliced ham, and it got old really, really quickly. And so we are going to talk about it, and changing it up is key. Like you said, just don't reshare the same links to your blog post or any of that stuff. So I kind of have 3 R's when it comes to repurposing. And I talked about this in Lima at your conference. But the first one is it still relevant? Right. Okay. So that's the first R. The second one, does it need to be refreshed? And third is, how can I make it more remarkable? So I always like to look and kind of take every piece of content and take it through that kind of lens. Like the first one, is it still relevant? For example, you mentioned mainly Pinterest tips. And so I have a ton of boards that I've curated throughout the years. Really still have a lot of people who follow me over there. And I had a Google Plus board. not really relevant anymore. It's like a MySpace board. It's great content, but it's not evergreen. So I had to go through that and look at it, and taking it through that lens, is it relevant? So you got to, something that you have in a blog post is just like, that thing is dead anymore. We're not talking about it anymore. If you're talking about like how to, the best practices for your flip phone texting, probably not the best thing to have on there. So you want to kind of go and say, is it still relevant for my audience? The cool thing is, the second part, can it be refreshed? That is where you can start getting creative. You can start seeing, okay, an example, because I was just at Disney talking at Lou Mangello's event. One of the things, and I went to it when I was when we first got married. That's where my wife and I went for our honeymoon, and they had this ride called Alien Encounter. It was designed by George Lucas. It was stinking scary, and I screamed like a girl. I mean, and I loved every minute of it. It's not there anymore. It turned into Stitch's Great Escape, and it's just not there anymore. And if you're a Disney blogger and you're still writing about Alien Encounter, or have a post like that, how to, enjoy it or whatever, you can still use some of the evergreen content about Alien Encounter, because it is the history of the park, and just switch it up and refresh it a little bit. You're not going to lose all the juice that you had from that original article, but you have to change it up so it's relevant again. And so how do you refresh it? So that's, think about some of your evergreen stuff that may not be performing as well as it used to be. Okay, what can I change about it? Because I know there's good stuff in there that still resonates with people. How can I refresh it?
I love that. Just because, like, for example, Chris Deck just said, I miss Google Plus.
Right.
So you could take that piece of content, like you said, is it relevant for today, talking about like how to maximize it? No, but you could refresh it. Say, we all remember and miss like, this thing, but here's how we can apply like what we've learned or what we experienced to today. Like, for example, giving you a sneak peek of what we're working on behind the scenes now, we're creating the Now space as a hat tip to the MySpace old school pages.
Oh, yeah.
But talking about our team members, right? And it could be a way of bonding with people that may miss something that they had before, but still tying it into a way of approaching it today. So it doesn't have to be dead, is the first point that I love that you make. Like, just because something, was done once and you loved it, you can't necessarily use it as is again, but you could refresh it and bring it to where it's still relatable and relevant, but in a way that shows that kind of, you are still being helpful and with the times today.
Right.
By the way, George said he went to Disney for his honeymoon too. I love that.
That's great. It's so much fun. We were just back. I was just back there. Eric was there with me. I saw Eric in the comments as well. So I just love. We got to go and ride the new ride at Epcot. But anyway, so does it need to be refreshed? That's the second one. And there's tons of different ways you can do that. You don't always have to stay in the same medium either. So if it is if it was a great blog post, didn't really do it, and you're just like, I don't want to really write about it anymore, because to be honest, a lot of the stuff that makes us excited and gets us to like want to repurpose content is something we want to try different. We want to see if this will work over on this platform, or if so don't stifle those creativity muscles. Like, okay, maybe I'll if I can refresh it, instead of making it a blog post, maybe I can make it a season of podcast episodes, and I could take what was in that article and refresh it in a different way, and just have 5 to 10 minute short form type of a podcast episode, and try that out, see if that hooks. Or maybe even something with voice search that you would use with, I don't want to say her name because she'll start talking, but over on Amazon, doing it that way. So try to use and stretch those creativity muscles when you're repurposing, because you might hit on something really, really cool. We just had a guy who talked about TikTok, and he was down at Momentum at Disney, and he's actually using his TikTok channel to help boost his guide service and travel business down in Orlando. And he's using TikTok, which is a relatively new platform that he didn't even have. And he's refreshing his content of the stuff that he'd been taking pictures of, his Instagram account, all that stuff, over onto TikTok. So think about ways you can do that as well. The other thing, the last section. Oh, did you want to say something? Did I go too fast?
No, go ahead. Okay. If you're in your zone, I can.
Yeah. So how do you make it more remarkable? And this is something that we like to do as as marketers, and we need to kind of lean into, is like, okay, some new tools. Oh, here's a new filter. oh, here's something I can try. Right now, it's really big is short form video, TikTok and the YouTube shorts. And like, this is a perfect time to take some of this stuff that you want to repurpose and do it in a different way on a different platform and see if you can, get some traction out of that. And you don't have to dance. You don't have to go over TikTok and dance. You can do something fun, and, tell a joke or show a behind the scenes
Mhm.
thing or whatever, and try and see if you can repurpose that content on some of those new short form video platforms.
Absolutely. I know Jen and Kara are both commenting in here. You can use the words in your blog post to do a
Mm,
voiceover in a reel. Absolutely.
great
So
idea.
I love that. I love like finding the medium that you feel that you could really express yourself the most in. Like when we work with clients, we ask them like, do you like written content? Do you want to just send us an audio on your
Hmm.
tips, or what does that look like for you? We find the medium that they feel like the most comfortable in, and then we will work with them, or maybe they have a team or something. They can work with them on repurposing it to create multiple forms of content. And they don't have to, like if it's a blog post, for example, and writing it all out, like Jen was saying here, to potentially create a reel. The blog post could be put in several different segments of types of content. Like, we've done the same thing with when I'm speaking at an event. I know
Hmm.
when you've spoken at an event, where you can take little sound bites and use that as like a tip video, right? You
Hmm.
can turn that piece of content of your speaking engagement to a blog with things. You can, do so much with it. Just finding the medium and the platform and how, like you said, to make it remarkable, to stand out, to truly be helpful. So it's not people just, like you said, this same ham sandwich every
Right.
day that
Right. Right.
you are trying to digest it, because it wouldn't feel appropriate if you served, that in a particular setting. So like
Hmm.
on Instagram for reels, make it something that's really going to stand out there, and spread it out to where people can digest it in the right way, as
Yeah.
well. But I love what you shared about like even your podcast and how you're repurposing that. I know on Magnet Marketers here, we come up with the show title and all the things, the guests that we're gonna have on. We turn it into a blog, and then we take snaps of the video of things that you've shared, turn that into reels, and
Hmm.
then also, potentially social post later where we can tag you and feature you in it, to our community to kind of continue on with the helpfulness of the piece of content.
Yeah, those are all great ideas. The kind of the thing, I like to think of as like kind of, everybody talks about the 80/20 rule. I like to set up like 80% of my like repurposing efforts to be like almost automated. And we can go through the kind of the process that I go through that I kind of can walk through. But then like 20% I like to experiment and have fun with and like try a TikTok thing or try, doing this over on this thing. And so because it's really easy to get in a rut, like I'm just a blogger, I'm just going to keep blogging and that's all I want to do. You need to carve out time where you're experimenting, you're having fun, you're trying something new, so you don't get burnt out. I mean, that's, at least for me, that's the way that if I can experiment and like even if it doesn't work, it's like, man, I tried TikTok or I tried,
Yeah.
doing these Instagram reels or tried a podcast. I mean,
Or
at
even
least.
Amazon, like you were
Yeah,
just talking about.
yeah, yeah. So
You were just talking about that. Yeah.
so Amazon, a little side note is during COVID, I started carving online just to give people something to look at and that, kind of chill out for and just talk with people. And people really, really like that. And so it was a hobby that I repurposed. And I mean, there's all sorts of different things. Jessica and I were talking before the show about I'm also an Amazon influencer and the way I'm actually taking
Mhm.
stuff that I get from Amazon and repurposing it there and getting money from that. So think of creative ways that you
Mhm.
can repurpose your stuff. And once you start like flexing that like repurposing muscle, you just start
Mhm.
more and more things kind of start bubbling to the top of, oh, I could try this over here, I can try this over there.
Yeah. No, I love that, because you're already buying it, something you're already excited
Right.
about, right? Like that's key, I think. If it's already something that and are passionate about, like people can feel that. And
Hmm.
it's just like presenting it in another way. But
Right.
like you said, it's not something that you're just like putting out there where you're going to get burnt out on.
Hmm.
Find the right mediums, right? Like
Right.
you mentioned Eric was at the event with you, and Eric's on our team, and we were just talking about this with a client. Like they really have amazing newsletters. And we're like, man, you know what? We could take that same newsletter and put it on their LinkedIn company page where they, allow now you to put the newsletters there. It would be relevant on that channel. It would feel natural. It's still super helpful. And it's going to be another way for people to experience this brand in a way that's going to help build relationships and hopefully, save time and things for the client that's working, because they're not going to have to rethink of something new, because they're taking something they're already doing well and just packaging it in another way that's going to help build their relationship. And Eric says it's almost like writing a prompt. What would this look like if it were a blank? Yeah, I love your 80-20 rule on just trying out things.
Yeah. So I mentioned at the beginning of the show, like, here, the hard, some good news and bad news. The bad news was like creating content is hard. It's just hard, especially now with everybody seems like they're creating, and you have to stand out in the feed. How can, what makes people stand out in the feed? The good news is there's tools now that make it easier than before. And if we've got time, I'd love to share like my process, because whenever I talk about this, I always get people who are like, mouths are open and like, what, you can do this? And so I'll take it from what we do at Social Media News Live. So as soon as the show is done, like after, if Jessica's on the show, when she has been, she comes on, and as soon as I'm done, I upload it to this program called Descript. And what it does, it makes a transcript of everything that, and then actually it says how many speakers you have. I said, well, it's me and Jessica, so it's 2 speakers, and it'll actually go through and separate the voices, right? So I've got a transcript with Jessica's words, my words, whatever. I can then go and highlight the transcript like a Word document and delete, move around, whatever, and it actually does that with the video or the audio. So for Guy Kawasaki's Remarkable People podcast, we use that exclusively to edit the podcast. We get it all broken up the way he wants it, and then I take it and then kind of do some sound design and send it to my sound designer as well. And that's how we produce the show, pretty much all into script. For my show, after I'm done with Social Media News Live, I go through and say, okay, Jessica answered this question really, really well. It was about 2 minutes. And so I always try to keep my clips about 2 minutes, because that fits on all the social media platforms. And I just highlight it, and then I export it, and it's a clip. And I can actually now do a audiogram with it. I can export the audio. I can put it in Premiere. I can do all these different things with that. And it also has, because it's a transcript, it already has the subtitles that I can drop down below in that clip, and it's all done. I don't have to upload it to a subtitle place, to do the subtitles, have to do whatever. It's all inside of Descript. It has changed the way I edit. It's changed the way I repurpose. I usually get 3 or 4 clips from each show that I do. I have those split up with the subtitles on it. They're usually square for everything except for I have a Reels version that I do. And then I put it to Agorapulse, and it's in this huge queue. In fact, this week I'm behind. Jen Cole was on a show not very long ago. I have her clips ready to go. I just haven't uploaded yet, but I put them all in Agorapulse in a big queue, and they just rotate. So like this week, I'm getting ready for Thanksgiving. I was out mowing the pasture today, not doing much work, but I still had my repurpose clips going out. And that's what I was talking about, the 80% continue to do that. So that's our process.
And that's cool. Like, finding the tools that will help expand what you're already doing. But, the technique it's what's first, right? Like knowing the questions, all that, planning that out. Like you said, content's hard, but then taking your hard work that you've prepped so hard for and you've worked hard at it and expanding it. I love those kind of tools. I know like a couple other examples we used, Agorapulse as well, that pulls in the blogs for you. And then you can just change up the intros to it. But if you've already got like some of those sound bites and clips, again, it shares out, like, and you can put images with it. It ties into Canva. Like I know the show that I was on talking about, the Apple updates, where then that quote comes out and it tags me in the post, when you share it on Twitter. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember being on that show. And then I'll share it, right? And it expands its reach. And on Magnet Marketers, we have like the click to tweet, right? So it makes it stupid simple for people to share. But that's just it, right? Like taking your work, making sure that if you're going to put the time into create something remarkable and great, because content is hard, make sure that you then just add that little extra there to that you have a plan, build out a flow for you, because you have that flow like you just mentioned on what you do first, second, and third, and so forth, to have that in than when you want to take a holiday break or
Right.
spend
Yeah.
time with family,
Or you
and
get
it keeps
sick or
going.
something happens and you're still, and my
Mhm,
thing is
mhm,
everybody is fragmented into different, some people like to watch the show over on YouTube. Some people like to
mhm.
watch it on Facebook.
Yep,
I want to give them the content wherever they're at. And so,
yep,
like I said, I think I have it set for like
mhm.
Twitter not to go out of the queue unless it's been shared 50 times. And
That's
I
sweet.
have this huge thing, and every I get great guests like Jessica, and
Yeah.
Grace, my co-producer, helps me with great questions. And so a lot of our stuff is evergreen. I mean, it's always good.
Mhm,
It's like how to talk to people, how to do a relationship marketing, the stuff that never is it gets old. And that stuff just continually goes out there. And if you look at my clips, and this is kind of a side note, you'll hardly ever see me on there. It's mostly
yep,
always my guest. My whole thing is like I am highlighting my guest. It's all about them. And I just consider it free consulting when I have them on my show. And so it's
mhm,
just and then that lets me get even greater guests down the road. So that whole
mhm,
sharing attitude, which I know Jessica, you do a lot, and you know, making them first, really highlighting the people who speak at your stage, all that stuff. That I think people need to think in their repurposing plan as well, because the
mhm.
more you do that, the greater guests you get, the more goodwill you have,
Absolutely.
and the more people will follow you as well.
I love that. I love that. I know, I believe you know him as well, Andy Cresadina.
Mm,
He
amazing.
like something he's talked about with blogging, he's just an ex SEO genius as
Right.
well. But he said, never release a piece of content without somebody feeling like they have an appointment to share it. Like,
Hmm.
find a way when you're getting ready to produce your content that somebody's either featured in it or they're quoted in it, they know about it, right? And they are then the activator, accelerator for that piece of content, because not only is it building good rapport, like you've spoke at Social Media Week Live, I've been on your show, now I want
Hmm.
you on Magnet Marketers. We're continuing to develop this rapport and relationship and bring our audiences together because we both, have a
Right.
similar mindset on how to show up in business. But also it's expanding, that reach. And so I love that. That's a really, really good tip for brands to think about as they're thinking through the content of how can I add value? What can I share easily? And who can I also bring in that's an expert or somebody that can add value to what I'm getting ready to share, that not only is adding value to it, but also can help expand its reach so that we can build then a good rapport and both share in each other's community.
Right.
I
Exactly.
love that tip.
So one of the things
Yeah.
I think you probably, and I'm talking to the kind of the new
Mhm.
business owners, the new marketers who are just getting out there, and you've probably run in this as well. And I know I did when I first started, was that I was so scared to give information that I thought
Oh
that
yeah.
would
Yeah.
hurt my business. Like I was giving away too much stuff for free. And I remember it was Jay Bear who said, just because they know the ingredients, it doesn't make them a chef. And I thought that
Mhm.
was so good. And like that changed the thinking for me. Is like, well, I'm just gonna they you know what? They could
Yeah.
probably listen to all my podcast episodes and get everything and never have to hire me to do consulting, but nobody ever does that. They
Yep.
always they want a shortcut, so they will call you or schedule an
Yep.
appointment or do a service with you or whatever. And so that's
So
the
true.
thing I think. Even in
Mhm.
repurposing, people are like, oh, well, if I share this, then it's going to be
Mhm.
highlighting them, and it won't make me look good. And I'm like, that just doesn't work. It's all about the other people providing a service, giving value.
Sticking with the food theme, I was watching Nailed It yesterday on Netflix, and they gave all the chefs the same ingredients,
Hmm.
the same recipe, everything, and they all created something different,
Right.
right, for that,
Mhm.
and they chose the winner based upon what they were looking for, and that's just it, right? Like, that's it. Nobody can do the thing the way that you do it. It's not what we do, it's how we do it, right? Like, that's why all the, like, Nestle and all that stuff, they have
Right.
recipes on the back of it. They give it
Right.
to you.
Right.
People can find the recipe, but they're not gonna create it the same way that you
Exactly.
can. So you might as well make it easier for them to do what they're trying to do, and then they're going to continue buying from you and working with you at the end of the day. I love that, Jeff. Jeff, 30 minutes goes by way too fast.
It
So we're definitely
does.
going to have you back on, one. And two, would love to, even invite you back to Social Media Week Lima, because your stories, first of all, cracked me up. I was not ready. I will remember not to take drinks of anything,
Uh,
water, coffee, while you're talking, because it was not safe, because you were hilarious. But two, before that, if people want to connect with you, what's the best place for them to find you and connect with you online?
So they can find me at jeffsieh.com. And for your podcast listeners, it's spelled S as in Sam, IEH, I before E, especially in C. That's how my mom let me remember how to spell my name. And I would love for you guys to, we're not doing it this Friday, but we'll start up again next Friday. We're actually, I believe, having somebody who's actually speaking on your stage in December, Ryan Coral. Yes. He's very funny.
Great.
He's an incredibly visual marketer, and his
my gosh,
videos
he's
are really,
amazing.
really good. So I'm excited to have him on. And so that's the other cool thing about going to conferences like Jessica's, because you get to connect with all these people and meet people, and they're like, oh man, you got to be on my show. I got to be on your show. And that's what I love about these types of conferences. They're so good. So but that's where you can find me, and Social Media News Live every Friday at 10 a.m. Central. That's where we do our show. And we're going to have Jessica on again, because it's that time of year. We got to get back in the swing of things, and get it off on the right foot. So yeah.
Well, definitely we'll be including the link to Jeff's shows and where you can connect with him. Definitely type the word recap in the comments here, and it will invite you to have the blog sent directly into your messenger, so you don't even have to remember, because I know you have all the holiday things that you guys are working through right now. So type the word recap in the comments. We'll make sure it gets directly into your inbox, so you don't miss a thing that Jeff is releasing, because he is a wealth of information. And look at the beard, guys. I mean, just for the beard alone, you got to pay for that. But
it's hard to glue on in the morning. It takes so long. I got to fix that.
It's always on point. We need to know your secrets. That needs to be its own thing. But Jeff, thank you so much for showing up here. I know it's a busy week, and you have the long honey-do list that you have to work through before family comes over. But I appreciate you showing up for us in the community, and just how you show up. I hope you have an amazing week, and I hope all of you have an amazing Thanksgiving with those that you love, and hopefully you got some value out of this. Type the word recap, and we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right back here. Till then, everybody, enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks again.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.